What's up, guys? Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks, and today I'm going to tell you the story about how I held my playgroup hostage for 4 hours. Now, this one needs a little bit of backstory because it's a pretty great story. This is the first ever commander deck I ever built, and I made every mistake in the book building it, so I thought I'd share that with you guys. First of all, I got into Commander when one of my friends told me about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. You get to get your favorite legendary creature, put it at the helm of a deck, and smash some opponents with it. I was back into Magic. I've been playing Magic forever, fell out of it a little bit, but then when I learned about Commander, I got right back in. And this is right around Dominaria coming out. So I bet you know what happened. I saw Muldrotha and instantly gravitated towards her. I was like, you can make your hand your graveyard. That sounds amazing to me. And it is amazing. But the deck I built was not so amazing. I included some good cards like Evil Twin, Hostage Taker, and it became into Steal Your Shit Tribal real fast. The thing about Steal Your Shit Tribal is it's only as good as you know the decks you're playing against, because if the decks you're playing against don't play good creatures, you're not going to steal good shit and your deck doesn't really do anything. And what's really important about this is the playgroup I was playing with at the time, they were all homebrew decks. These were just cards that they had pulled over the years of them playing Magic, and there's nothing wrong with that, but these decks were far from optimized, so the Steal Your Shit Tribal portion of the deck was almost useless. Now, there was another way it won, and it was kind of a janky combo that I thought was amazing at the time, but it's not that great. You have Death's Presence, super cheap card, along with Doomgape, another really cost-effective card, and then Sage of Hours. And the idea was we'll sacrifice Doomgape every turn, getting 10 counters to put on our Sage of Hours and get infinite turns. And then, and this is the fun part, we're gonna win the game by equipping Black Blade Reforged on Muldrotha and just smashing face. The deck did not have any trample in it, so, you're smashing face with Muldrotha, just hoping they don't have blockers or, you get through. And honestly, guys, it was hilarious. The game played out like this. It was my Muldrotha deck versus an Anafenza deck and a Sidisi deck. Now, both mono decks versus my tri deck, we now know, mine probably had a little more power to it, right? But starting out, you don't know any different. You just go into it. Additionally, this guy's Anafenza deck, I'm not convinced he wasn't playing lands tribal. It was turn 15 or something. The dude had 12 lands onto the battlefield and his hand was full of lands and he hadn't done much all game. So it was literally just me versus the Sidisi player. And the Sidisi player had a lot of graveyard hate. So he was able to sacrifice his zombies, search up the graveyard hate, and get rid of all my stuff. So the second Sage of Hours entered the graveyard. This is why this isn't a very good combo. It's easy to see coming, right? You see Sage of Hours hit the graveyard. He's like, well, we gotta get rid of that. Bajuka Bog, no graveyard. Set me back a little bit, right? But the engine's back on. You can't keep Muldrotha down. I'm drawing cards, I'm playing a lot of lands, and then I'm passing turn. That's basically all I was able to do because the guy was playing zombie tokens against my Steal Your Shit deck, and the other guy wasn't playing anything. So I just had nothing in my hand. But like I said, you can't keep Muldrotha down. So we kept going. I kept getting ahead. We get a massive board state, and out of nowhere, he does some things to make me sack my board state. He was trying to exile my Visir. So what I did, what I thought was smart, was I sacrificed most of my board, the things that I didn't want him to exile, and then I sacrificed Visir. And then he exiled my whole graveyard again. So, okay, that was fun, right? Hey, we make mistakes. It was one of my first Commander games. I thought it was a smart play, was not a smart play. Set me back way back. But this guy's been having to deal with me the whole time, so he hasn't been really developing his board anyway, and I'm not really sure, what's in his board at all. This guy gets a huge smile on his face. All right, I was like, the game's over. He's got something to win it. He cast Rise of the Dark Realms right after he exiles everything from my graveyard and then asks to see my graveyard. I give him the, I think there was a Wood Elves in there at the time. He's like, that's all. I was like, everything else is exiled. And he just bows his head in shame. He knows what he's done. So that only extended the game longer. Now it's turned into the game plan, right? I get excited because I draw my Black Blade Reforged. I equip it to my commander. It's like a 13-13 at this point, and I'm excited. I'm ready to go ahead and end the game plan. We're smashing face with Muldrotha, and he's got an endless board of zombies, and there's no trample in the deck. So I'm just swinging with my 13-13, 15-15, I forget what it was at the time, but it was a huge Muldrotha, and he's just blocking it every time, because you can do that. Just chump blocking my Muldrotha, and I was like, Oh man, this feels bad. And honestly, that's kind of how it went for a while until he got the upper hand. He killed my muldrotha, and then he got a massive board of zombies. And you think it ended there, right? No, no. Let me introduce you to a card called Spore Frog. Yes, we used Spore Frog over and over and over again to delay the game even farther, and until he could exile Spore Frog, that's how it went. Finally, he was able to exile my Spore Frog. He had an Ulamog on the battlefield. He was exiling a lot of cards from my graveyard, and he did eventually take the win. But long story short, that was how I extended a game over 4 hours. To be honest, I think he takes some of the blame because the amount of graveyard hate he used on me, my deck would have been working. But like I said, the deck was still your shit tribal. Some of it didn't play the most, efficient cards. And the ways to win were kind of not as solid as I thought they were. This is why I preach you always want to put a couple different ways to win the game in your deck. And don't try to have all of them be combat damage. Now, I know I included a few ways, but the problem with the ways that I included to win the game is you can see them coming from a mile away. They're not very secretive, and people have plenty of time to react to them. So that's why whenever you're building your first deck especially, you definitely want to throw in some solid ways to win that aren't combat damage based, and then ask yourself if the combat damage based ones are realistic or not really. Because smashing face with muldrotha, while sounds very fun and exciting, it turns out just not that effective, and you'll have you just smashing into a bunch of zombies that just block it. Now, if we had trample, this might have been a different game, but like I said, first deck I built, I was like, I'll just start killing his creatures until I can get through, but honestly, it turns out you can create zombies faster than you can get through just killing one at a time. Yeah, hindsight's 2020, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I never got invited back. I think I was invited back one other time, and then a similar thing happened. This guy had like 15 enchantments on one creature. He was playing the Planeswalker deck that searched up all the enchantments. So he had this 2020, unblockable, indestructible, everything, and turns out that does nothing against the Spore Frog. And then he didn't include any vegetables in his deck, guys. You got to include the vegetables. If you just want to put the cool cards in your deck, that's cool, but don't expect, a Spore Frog will then just end your day because you have no removal in the deck. And that's kind of what he did, and he kind of blamed it on my deck, which I don't think my deck deserved the blame when you can't deal with a Spore Frog. I mean, Spore Frog's a good card, but hey, hear me out. If you're constantly like having your plan foiled by one particular card, and all it takes to get rid of that card is a good timed removal spell, then it's probably on you. And, like I said, they blamed me. It all got put on me. They compared it to a counterspell tribal deck, which I don't think was very fair. But I'm rambling at this point. That was the very first commander deck I built, and the time I held a playgroup hostage for 4 hours. It's not my playgroup anymore for obvious reasons, but hey, I thought it was a funny story, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. As always, I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I'll see you in the next one.